Hi, everyone. This is Shannon Shy. Welcome to part two of today's Q&A series. Part one, I read a relatively lengthy question that I got, which I think is a wonderful question and it does need to be addressed. But because I'm limited by space, I had to make a second video and a second posting. So I'm not going to reread the question now. You can go back to part one and listen to it or read it. The answer. All right, so first, let me just say that one of the things that Anonymous had said, or as a goal, was to make the thoughts disappear. I don't think that's the goal, right? OCD thoughts, it doesn't matter whether they're present, right? We, if we set that as a goal that they have to disappear, all OCD has to do is pop up, and we don't think that we are good. So, getting to a place where OCD doesn't adversely affect you, even if the thoughts are present, is the goal. I got there and I even got better than that. But I wasn't shooting for a complete disappearance of thoughts. So, with regard to this proposition that we have to solve all of our underlying fears before we can address OCD, I don't think that's a great idea. And here's why: it's futile to make it a prerequisite, right? Because if it is a prerequisite, you've given OCD leverage. Right? If we set as a prerequisite, I have to address all my underlying fears, and then I'll go after OCD. All OCD has to do is whisper to you. Uh, I still think you're afraid of that, or you still feel incapable, or you still feel inferior. Therefore, you're not ready to tackle OCD. That's what OCD wants. OCD doesn't want you to get better because OCD relies on your participation with OCD for its very existence. So, what's the answer? Well, we can address both fears that we have that are unrelated to OCD, and we can address OCD simultaneously. We have the capacity to do that. How? Well, I have a mantra that says action is your ally. Taking action not only moves you forward in solving problems, but it also gives you a psychological boost when you take action to address things. Slow things down, break them down into small, manageable parts, and then take appropriate action. Small steps are as important as big steps. With regard to OCD, I've written extensively about how I recovered from OCD, so I'm not going to repeat that here. I've even written pretty extensively on this concept of fear, or this emotion of fear, and how to deal with it. So I'm not going to write about that today. What I want to do is let you know first again that you can deal with both your underlying fears and OCD at the same time. But with regard to the specific fears that you talked about, um, and I'll just quickly summarize them here: feeling of inferiority, inadequacy, lacking in self-esteem, not feeling capable, hypersensitivity to criticisms and disapproval, being left behind, being refused, abandoned, disliked, and disrespected, and losing everything and everyone. Uh, Let me just say that I'm not a psychologist, so I'm going to be careful to stay within my lane here, right? What I do know is that there are many therapists or other learned people who have written about addressing the fears and feelings you experience, right? They provide very helpful tips and advice. The key is taking action on these things. And you can do that while you're still implementing a strategy to deprive OCD of what it craves. You can do both. Always keep in mind that you don't have to be perfect at doing any of this, right? You don't have to approach addressing fear correctly, right? That concept of I didn't do it correctly, so I guess it didn't work. Take perfection and correctness off of the table, right? Take it off the table. Just try your best. You will relieve such a burden from your shoulders if you take perfection and I have to be 100% correct in doing this off the table. Remember what Ambrose Redmood said: courage is not the absence of fear, it's a judgment that there's something more important than fear. It's so true. You have so much in your life that is much more important than any fear that you feel, whether it's one of the fears that are unrelated to OCD or if it is a fear or a thought related to OCD. Change your perspective. Don't think, quote, I can't address my fears because I'm afraid. Instead, tell yourself, I must address my fears because I'm afraid. I don't want to be afraid like this forever, but you can address them. Small steps are okay, but you got to start somewhere. And finally, don't forget that I'm right here by your side. And I'm speaking to everybody who's listening to this. I am right here by your side and offering a hand for you to hold on to as you negotiate this very difficult and painful journey. But the good news is if you negotiate it, if you navigate it, you will get better. And that is the objective. Okay? Hopefully, this all made sense. I will see you Monday. Uh, have a great weekend. Bye.